Glasgow, Scotland, an expert culinary specialist named Michael awakens with a lady dozing next to him. Better believe it, he does. It seems like the two as of late got private and are attempting to rest. Shockingly, Michael benevolently requests that the young lady leave, referencing that he finds it hard to lay down with another person in his bed. At first, the young lady dismisses it, feeling that Michael can't be serious. However, when he continues to demand, she irately escapes the bed and leaves. In the interim, Suzanne, a disease transmission expert, should be visible going for a stroll on the ocean front with her sister, Jenny. Turns out she as of late went through a separation and is struggling with adapting to it to ease her pressure. She begins tossing rocks at seagulls. She had them poop her. In the following scene, Michael shows up at the eatery where he works and has a common day, serving numerous clients and making assortments of dishes. His colleagues bother him for cutting off one more brief friendship and unloading a young lady soon after being heartfelt. Then again, Susan gets back to work in the wake of being missing. Since her separation out of the blue, her chief, Stephen, interferes with her en route to the lab and takes her to the clinic, making sense of the need her there. At the clinic, they experience a man with a baffling condition, unexpected melancholy and inordinate crying trailed by a deficiency of smell. Susan asks why she was called for a particularly bizarre case, and Stephen illuminates her that comparative cases have been accounted for overall in the beyond 24 hours, with no clear associations between the patients. They choose not to overreact for the time being, trusting the circumstance will determine all alone. The following day, Susan is smoking by the window before work when she spots Michael emerging from the eatery's secondary passage on her road. They notice one another and Michael energetically asks Susan for a cigarette. "Hello, darling, you got some malignant growth for me." She throws one to him and Michael energetically requests that she visit the cafe as he is a culinary specialist there. Susan disregards him and shuts her window. Later at the lab, Susan and her collaborator update Stephen with their discoveries. They've precluded an infection and disease, yet they recognize that the issue is spreading. They likewise examine that the potential causes could be another poison, ecological factors, or even illegal intimidation. What's more, they concur that it's certainly spreading. As an ever-increasing number of individuals in the city experience unexpected episodes of sadness during the day trailed by a deficiency of smell, it seems as though they've all been to Taco Chime to me. In the meantime, the specialists address the issue on the news, guaranteeing individuals that researchers are examining what is happening and there's compelling reason need to overreact. Nonetheless, regardless of their focusing on that it's not infectious, dread holds the roads.
Individuals begin going out less and the people who really do wear veils to safeguard themselves. One night, Michael's cafe is unfilled, so the staff leaves early. Afterward, when Michael likewise goes outside to smoke, he sees Susan showing up after work. He talks with her for some time prior to welcoming her for supper at the eatery where there's additional food because of the absence of clients. At first, Susan falters, which checks out given she's responsible for the episode. Yet, she at last joins after some demanding in light of the fact that she's a nitwit. Michael gives her his unique dish, and Susan has all the earmarks of being significantly intrigued by his cooking abilities. In any case, while partaking in the dinner, she is abruptly wrecked with anguish and starts crying. She makes reference to that she recollected her late dad and can't quit contemplating him. Michael comforts her and offers to bring her back home, ignoring her anxiety about getting the strange sickness. He stays to comfort her until she nods off, however winds up encountering a similar melancholy himself. The next morning, Michael awakens to welcome Susan in the kitchen and becomes acquainted with that she has lost her feeling of smell. Right then, at that point, he likewise takes a taste of tea and understands that he can't smell by the same token. Or on the other hand, perhaps that he is simply senseless. English crap water and is feeble as they conform to their new reality. Susan finds her work with creatures simpler without the sense. However, at Michael's eatery they face difficulties because of the deficiency of fragrance in cooking. His associates then, at that point, choose to escalate the flavors in food with additional flavors and fixings to redress. Michael shows up at Susan's loft and asks her out on the town. From the outset, she shows no interest in his proposition, however in the long run consents to go on a stroll with him. During this walk they experience a violin player who utilizes music and accepts to inspire the sensations of sense and the recollections they bring. This provides our hero with a weird kind of fascination toward each other, so without burning through any time, they return to the loft, get liquor and hang out. Shockingly, Michael, who could do without anybody resting on his bed, nods off calmly. In any case, sooner or later, Susan lets him know that she should be without help from anyone else and demands Michael leave without scrutinizing her decision. He avoids his meeting card and strolls with regards to her condo coming back. Michael experiences a man who considers the deficiency of smell to be a heavenly discipline and accepts the end is close. Could it? Trevor, you expressed that about everything back in his bed. Michael battles to rest, despite the fact that he's separated from everyone else, feeling the waiting effect of the day's occasions. The next day, he visits his life partner's grave at the burial ground and experiences her folks, who condemn him for not bringing blossoms for their little girl. In the interim, Susan invests energy with her sister, Jenny, and her children. She discovers that her ex is getting hitched and having a child soon. Susan additionally discusses Michael, uncertain in the event that she really loves him since she will in general pick some unacceptable accomplices. Hearing this, Jenny recommends she allow Michael an opportunity and acknowledge him. In any case, Susan answers that she would rather not fall head over heels once more and bear the aggravation of the separation. As the days pass, different hypotheses about the baffling sickness arise around the world. Natural gatherings suspect a biological end of the world. Inside organizations believe it's an assault on opportunity. Fundamentalists view it as heavenly discipline, and some fault private enterprise thinking of it as a monetary plan. One evening, Susan observes her chief, Stephen, having a serious frenzy and mental breakdown at the lab. She faces him right now, yet later encounters a similar fit of anxiety in the parking area alongside her colleague and others around the world. These assaults are trailed by deep appetite, driving individuals to eat bizarre things like blossoms, crude meat, lipstick, and even dress. Certain individuals are in any event eating tied cases, yet that is on the grounds that they're blockheads on TikTok. In any case, when the free-for-all dies down, individuals feel disturbed without help from anyone else and understand that they can never again taste anything. Amidst adapting to these changes, Susan looks for solace in Michael. She makes sense of that taste and smell are associated and it's normal for them to vanish together. Whether their different faculties will be unaffected. The following morning, Susan glances through the window and sees that individuals are back in the city and their lives are as yet happening notwithstanding the changes. With this inspiration, she empowers both herself and Michael to go on with their schedules, despite the fact that he's uncertain, assuming he'll keep his work. Afterward, they consent to begin dating since they accept that before long individuals will lose different faculties and will require somebody close by to remain blissful. In the following scene, at the point when Michael arrives at the eatery, his supervisor illuminates him that they will not be opening because of the absence of clients. Turns out individuals just purchase flour and fat these days since they can't taste or smell their food. Nonetheless, Michael can't help contradicting his chief and accepts that individuals will in any case appreciate going out for supper and commanding with huge toasts. He chooses to reevaluate the cafe's menu, zeroing in on surfaces and sounds, and fortunately, it turns into an
extraordinary achievement. Individuals get once again to eateries since they partake in the social experience of being served and appreciate food along with their darlings. As the world adjusts, different sensations supplant taste. In the meantime, Michael and Susan hang out, finding bliss in regular exercises like washing and shaving. They even energetically taste cleanser and shaving cream only for it. During a night of moving, drinking and smoking, Susan proposes a game called Make Me Extraordinary. She makes sense of that the guidelines are basic. They need to share mysteries. No other person is familiar with them. She goes first and uncovers that she oddly abhors her sister's kids since she personally is barren. At the point when it's Michael's move, he admits that he took off from his debilitated fiancée previously and wasn't even there for her at the hour of her passing. Along these lines, he visits her grave routinely to adapt to the culpability. The lab gets a video call from Thailand, where a researcher uncovers another side effect: angry outbursts, trailed by loss of hearing. He personally shows it on the vehicle. Also, seeing this, Stephen concludes that now is the ideal time to overreact. Before long, individuals all over the planet begin getting fierce, and after their fury dies down, they understand that they have lost their feeling of hearing. Individuals actually figure out how to go on with their ordinary lives. The UFC will blast one day. Season goes to work. Furthermore, here's significant news: a child was brought into the world with all faculties unblemished, offering a possible wellspring of antibodies. In the meantime, Michael discovers that the eatery is being closed down because of a tainted individual on the third floor. The gathering extends to them an employment opportunity to cook for the isolated, serving pasta al dente produced using fat and flour as the whole road gets fixed off. Michael trusts that Susan and welcomes her will remain with him since she can't get to her place. Susan concurs, yet, prior to going to Michael's home, she stops to absorb the hints of the world. One final time I once had Michael's place. Susan energetically makes reference to living respectively, yet out of nowhere he changes his attitude and responds adversely. He turns out to be obnoxiously oppressive, offending her and referencing her fruitlessness. He then, at that point, begins tossing things around the house and continues to put down Susan. The circumstance grows into brutality and a terrified Susan at long last chooses to leave as she passes through turbulent roads. She sees individuals yelling for help. She stays inside her vehicle and drives away to her lab. Not long after Susan leaves, Michael's fury flare-up dies down and he understands that he has lost his hearing. To exacerbate the situation, his home is isolated and he gets requests to remain inside with government gave noodles. Actually no, not the noodles. Afterward, Susan shows up at the lab to find Stephen alone and powerless. Then, at that point, Michael calls her saying he's sorry for his way of behaving and communicating his affection for her. In any case, Susan will not respond to him back and discards her telephone. Some disease transmission expert. Sadly, she additionally capitulates to seethe and becomes hard of hearing. Following this, she heads to her sister's condo as it is the main safe spot in the city for her. In the interim, Michael goes out and visits Susan's loft, showing up underneath her window. All things being equal, he finds his supervisor at the cafe who has likewise lost his hearing across the globe. Two developments arise. One gathering who trusts in the looming apocalypse begins going through the roads and stealing from everything without hesitation. In any case, the other one is centered around reconstructing and involving communication via gestures as their essential method for correspondence. They accept that the world will one day get once again to predictability. Some of them even blindfold their eyes and get ready for their next loss of sense, for example vision. Then, Michael's eatery returns serving dishes intended for surface and utilizing lights to flag new requests. He visits a bar they used to visit and is shocked to find individuals actually getting a charge out of life.Best by putting their hands on the speakers to feel the vibrations. As the world anticipates the dimness, individuals center around visual encounters like perusing, getting tattoos and valuing compositions and dusks. Most invest their energy with their families, yet Michael suffocates his distresses in liquor, calling out to Susan under her window in the last scene. As obscurity draws near, a close-to-home side effect arises: cheerful happiness. Individuals begin feeling outrageous joy and regret absolutely nothing, desire or culpability. They embrace one another, treasuring life's magnificence simultaneously. Michael and Susan both recall the bliss they shared and search each other out. Susan shows up at the eatery and Michael rides his bike to see as her, yet can't stop her as she drives away. Nonetheless, Susan needs to get back to a one-way street and they at long last compromise of the road. Both are glad to see each other after quite a while, and as they stroll toward one another, haziness immerses them. This is the point at which we get to realize that individuals all over the planet have turned forever visually impaired. Be that as it may, the film closes with Michael and Susan clasping hands, sharing a sorrowful kiss and embracing their last minutes together, seeming to be some other couple in profound love. Buy in for additional recordings like this. Turn on notices and leave the same to take care of the channel.